The PS6 will destroy PC gaming. I can already hear 1,000 keyboards clicking in the comments, but before you hit enter, hear me out. After years of researching PCs, diving into console trends, following Xbox's weird situation, and while literally editing this video, I came to a wild conclusion. One that might sound absolutely insane, but deep down, you'll know I'm right. The PS6 is going to disrupt the entire PC gaming landscape. I'm talking about a direct hit to the GPU market, and a massive wake-up call for Nvidia and the rest. Because here's the thing, the GPU industry never recovered after the crypto boom and COVID. Prices tripled and never came back down. MSRP, straight up fiction at this point. And if PS6 delivers the price to performance leap that insiders are whispering about, it's game over. It'll make $2,000 PC builds look like a scam and force GPU makers to finally start pricing things fairly, or risk putting PC gaming into a full-blown recession. And that's just the beginning. More on this later in the video.
That escalated quickly.
2025 might actually be the best year in gaming history. I'm not just saying that to hype things up. The news cycle lately has been straight up insane. Every time we blink, something new drops that could easily be the headline of the year. I mean, let's just look at this week. We've got FateKeeper coming out of nowhere with one of the wildest reveals we've seen in ages. Mafia. The old country is dropping reviews that sound like we're getting an Oscar-tier crime epic in game form. Sony. Still breaking records left and right. PS5 and PS5 Pro consoles are flying off shelves. And then you've got PS6 leaks piling up, from the new UI to internal dev kit testing, and yeah, it's looking real. And just when you think it can't get crazier, Ubisoft is out here threatening to sue an actual Assassin's Creed voice actor. What timeline are we in? I know I say this every month, but can you blame me? The industry's on fire in the best way possible. So put your tinfoil hats on, hit that like button, subscribe to the fastest growing PlayStation and gaming news channel on the platform, and let's get into it.
Hey, that's pretty good.
All right, this next one's a big shift in the power dynamic behind the scenes, and it's been a long time coming. Remember when Sony bought Bungie back in 2022 and promised they'd stay independent? You know, creative freedom, separate governance, all that jazz? Yeah, turns out that independence is starting to fade. According to Sony CFO Lin Tao, Bungie is now in the process of becoming a full-on part of PlayStation Studios, not just working alongside them, becoming them. Tao literally said Bungie's independence is getting lighter and that the integration is already in motion. So basically, the Destiny devs are slowly but surely being folded into the larger PlayStation ecosystem. Why? Let's be honest. It hasn't been smooth sailing at Bungie. Destiny 2's final shape underperformed. Marathon got delayed. There have been layoffs, project cancellations, and reports of the studio overstating its financial forecasts. It's been rough. So Sony stepping in more aggressively kind of makes sense. What's wild is that this has been happening quietly in the background for a while now. We're talking shifting roles, internal restructuring, even spinning out a whole new studio, Team LFG, focused on a new sci-fi IP under the PlayStation banner. So yeah, Bungie's independent days are clearly numbered. And while we don't have an official "they're fully in the club now" day, this feels like a clear step toward tighter creative and strategic control from Sony HQ. As for Marathon, that's now delayed to early 2026, with a firm release window of before March 31st. So we'll likely hear more this fall. But the takeaway here, Sony's not messing around anymore. Here's a juicy one. Sony officially filed suit in California, going after Tencent via its Polaris Quest and Aurora Studios divisions for allegedly ripping off elements from Horizon, Zero Dawn, and Forbidden West with their game Light of Motoram. Sony's complaint calls Light of Motoram a slavish clone, citing eerily similar robotics, tribal futuristic settings, and even the protagonist's appearance. What's more, court documents reveal Tencent once pitched a Horizon-based mobile game to Sony, but was turned down before developing Light of Motoram anyway. Sony is now seeking unspecified monetary damages and an injunction to block the game's release, calling on the court to enforce its intellectual property rights. Since the lawsuit lawsuit dropped, Tencent quietly revised the Light of Motorum's Steam page, and the changes are massive. Store description got rewritten to drop Horizon-like references like colossal machines and mechanimals, opting instead for generic survival language. Key art and screenshots were replaced. Gone are the sweeping robot-filled landscapes and red-haired protagonist. Now the visuals focus on more neutral, open-world and creature imagery. A release window finally appeared, 4th quarter 2027, replacing the previous to-be-announced placeholder. Clearly, Tencent is trying to reduce the Horizon echoes in its marketing, or at least redirect attention elsewhere. Why? This matters. This is more than just a passive-aggressive fan debate. When two gaming giants collide over stylistic choices, it sets serious precedent for IP protection, especially in an industry where inspiration and imitation can blur. Sony argues the similarities extend from art and mechanics to fonts and ad copy. Light of Motorum isn't merely inspired, it's alleged to tread dangerously close to misrepresenting itself as Horizon. Meanwhile, Tencent's edits might help in court and keep the game from being seen as a direct copy, but the bigger fight is yet to come. So, get this, Matt Ryan, the voice of Edward Kenway from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, apparently dropped a cheeky hint to fans at a convention about replaying the game. Everyone took that as a wink-wink nudge-nudge that a Black Flag remake is on the way. This game's remake has been the worst-kept secret in the industry for a while now, with leaks, merch hints, and even Ubisoft teasing remakes in general. But what happened next is wild. It turns out Ubisoft wasn't having it. Matt says the company threatened to sue him because of that off-the-cuff comment. And yeah, he didn't realize he was being recorded the first time. After realizing that, he clammed up completely. Now in fan Q&As, he just responds with, "I say nothing." Honestly, the backlash over this move was rougher than the slip-up itself. Gears of War Reloaded drops on PS5 later this month, and it's gonna eat up about 63 gigs of your SSD. And yes, there's a day one update, because of course there is. Preload starts August 21st, and the game goes live on the 26th at 11 a.m. Eastern. Price? $40. So not full price, but not exactly budget remaster either. Now, this isn't just a lazy port, we're talking 4K, 120 frames per second, cross-play, cross-progression, VRR, and no loading screens in campaign. It even has PS5 Pro enhancements baked in. This thing is going all out. And yeah, it's not a new Gears, but it's still wild to think we've reached a point where Xbox is bringing one of its most iconic exclusives over to Sony's platform. Remember when that would have been considered blasphemy? Also worth noting, the timing. This remaster drops just before the 20th anniversary of the franchise in 2026. So, you thinking what I'm thinking? Gears 6 reveal incoming day one on PlayStation? So, guess what? Digital Foundry, the go-to name for breaking down console performance and tech, is finally going independent. Yeah, I didn't know either, but they were owned by IGN until now. Richard Ledbetter, DF's founder, just bought the company back. Technically, he already owned half since 2015, but the rest was passed around between Eurogamer, ReedPop, and eventually IGN. Now, he and investor Rupert Lohman, who also founded Eurogamer, fully own DF again. Ledbetter said it straight, this was the biggest thing he's ever bought, even bigger than his house. But it's already profitable thanks to Patreon support and nearly 1.5 million YouTube subscribers. They're keeping things mostly the same, still focused on PC gaming, console analysis, and retro games. No annoying paywalls. Most of the content will stay free. But now they can do more of what they actually want, like maybe launch a proper website, create a retro gaming podcast, do more dev interviews, and possibly hire more people for PC coverage. Why did they split? Ledbetter didn't trash IGN, but hinted that being stuck under corporate rules slowed them down. Now, it's all about freedom. No red tape, no conflicting priorities. Just tech analysis made for gamers, by gamers. If you're a DF fan, you probably won't notice a huge change, except maybe more cool stuff coming soon. All right, let's dive deep into FateKeeper, this wild new first-person action RPG RPG that's got the thrill-hunger crowd lit up like never before. Grab your sword, channel your inner druid, and let's go. Picture this. The camera pulls you into a dark fantasy world drenched in atmosphere, drenched in physics, and drenched in murderous magic. That's FateKeeper. Developed by Paraglacial, a team made up of former Grimlore Games folks, this game isn't trying to be just another open-world RPG. It wants to be the spiritual successor to 2003's Dark Messiah of might and magic. We're talking environment interaction, slow-motion ragdolls, telekinesis, brutal finishers, all the visceral melee fantasy you thought was lost to time. So, what even is this game? Combat is king. You'll chain melees, shove orcs off ledges with wind spells, toss barrels at faces, or straight up dismember a foe in slow-mo. Physics matter here. Even how you move in the world feels deadly. It's fluent, lethal, intentional. Think Diablo-like pace, but in first person. It's Dark Messiah meets FPS tactics. And yeah, it's elegant chaos. Magic matters too. You're not just swinging blades. You're tearing through reality with spells that can freeze enemies or ignite terrain. The magic system is reactive, physically integrated, and downright mean. Handcrafted world design. No sprawling wastelands here. Each level is semi-linear, with hidden paths, side quests, and branching loops that reward exploration. Progression's deep. Want to build strength, agility, sorcery? Go for it. Weapons, armor, artifacts, they're meaningful. Choices feel weighty. What about community hype? It's buzzing, and the why is clear. Reddit RPG forums are flooded with nostalgia. One user called it strong Dark Messiah vibes. Another mentioned they can't believe we're finally getting a true successor from that combat era. Reaction videos on YouTube? People are straight up jaw-dropped. TikToks are calling it the best first-person melee since Dark Messiah. Fans are stoked that this is not just flashy. We're talking visceral weapon feel, physics-driven impact, and no hand-holding. FateKeeper isn't trying to be everything. It wants to be something awesome. It's first-person action RPG built for players who crave meaningful build paths, responsive melee, and a gritty, handcrafted world that smacks you in the face. And the developers? They're leaning into community feedback with an early access release planned for winter 2025 on PC. Closing advice? Keep this on your wish list. Follow the dev updates, because if there's one genre starving for a comeback, it's first-person melee fantasy, and FateKeeper looks ready to deliver that and more. Here's your deep dive into Battlefield 6's open beta, with performance insights, gameplay impressions, and what the community's saying. Fans are already declaring, "We're so back." The gameplay feels like a return to the golden era of large-scale Battlefield battles. Vanguard squad play, intense vehicle chaos, and classic nostalgia are front and center. The beta includes a wide mix of modes. Think age-old Conquest and Rush, plus fresh takes like Escalation and a revamped Firestorm. Whether you prefer objective-focused warfare or rapid-fire chaos, there's something here for you. On PC, the visuals are stunning. Mid to high-end rigs report smooth, high-fidelity experiences, thanks in part to support for performance-boosting options like DLSS. Console players are seeing catch-up too. PS5 and Xbox targets 4K in balanced mode and 120 FPS in performance mode with some screen tearing, while Series S runs at roughly 1080p with a steady 60 FPS. High-end rigs impress. An RTX 4090 with DLSS 4 quality hits around 115 FPS at 4K, and frame generation can push beyond 100 FPS with no stutters. Meanwhile, in streamer benchmarks, an AMD Ryzen 7 9800 configuration wiped the floor with i9 rigs, surging 30% faster even when both used an RTX 5080 GPU. That said, some players are hitting low FPS and choppiness even on strong hardware, especially if G-Sync isn't working or CPU bottlenecks appear. What about the bugs? As expected, it's not perfect. Squads noted issues like input glitches while sprinting, broken zip lines, pinging, weapons, and UI oddities. Some teammates sunk into the ground after revive. One gun, the KTS-100 LMG, triggered debate for its near-zero recoil. It's based on a real-world design, Ultimax 100, but has players worried it's unbalanced. DICE insists it's an exception, not the norm. The beta has already drawn over 300,000 concurrent Steam players, even before open access, crashing some servers with queues up to 250,000 30,000 strong. On Reddit, reactions vary. Some say the maps feel cramped, vehicles lack durability, and performance isn't polished yet, but still, many believe it has the Battlefield magic back. Community feedback also includes concerns over movement speed, cosmetic quality, lack of a server browser, and technical requirements like TPM 2.0. Yet, overall, hopes are high for a solid comeback. Picture this. 15 years ago, Darksiders ended with a jaw-dropping cliffhanger. War, the lone horseman, declares he won't face the apocalypse alone. And suddenly, his fellow horsemen appear in burning glory. It was the kind of moment that seared itself into your memory. Fast forward to today. Darksiders 4 has finally been revealed during THQ Nordic's digital showcase, officially continuing that moment from the original game. And yes, the four horsemen, War, Death, Fury, and Strife, are not just present. They're all playable together. This isn't a side story, a prequel, or a reboot. This is the main narrative, picking up from where it left you hanging all those years ago, and it's happening across all modern platforms: PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. The gameplay leans into what the series does best: visceral third-person action, cinematic melee combat, dramatic traversal, and mind-bending puzzles, all set in a post-apocalyptic world filled with secrets, myth-inspired bosses, and otherworldly environments. Here's where it gets interesting for fans. Darksiders 4 will support 4-player co-op, online, and even split-screen local play for 2 players. That means you and 3 friends can each embody a horseman and charge into the apocalypse together. Imagine that. 4 mighty figures, each with unique combat styles, working in sync. Gunfire games even hinted at features like team combo finishers and shared skill upgrades, suggesting co-op isn't just an add-on, it's core to the design. Still, this isn't just co-op for co-op's sake. The game is fully playable solo, but with a twist. You'll choose your horseman and co-op bodies in 4 different play styles into one seamless experience. How that scales, whether levels adapt, enemy behavior shifts, or intelligence adjusts for 1 versus 4 players, is still a big mystery. Word on the street is the game is being built in Unreal Engine 5, with jaw-dropping visuals, seamless lighting, possibly even ray-traced Hellfire effects. And with Gunfire's solid track record from Remnant 2, there's a good chance they'll nail the balance between online functionality and polished single-player experience. What we don't know: release date, how progression works across modes, or whether switching horsemen mid-campaign is a thing. Plus, the official site remains tight-lipped on co-op, even though store listings confirm it, meaning details could shift before launch. Alright, here's a wild one. EA has reportedly been censoring the name Arc Raiders in their own chat system. Yeah, seriously, people discovered that if you type Arc Raiders in EA's live chat, it doesn't show up. Instead, it just gets replaced by a string of hashtags, like it was a swear word or something. This weird censorship only seems to apply to ARC Raiders. Other game names like Call of Duty, GTA, Fortnite, and even Escape from Tarkov go through just fine. But as soon as you try Arc Raiders, boom, nothing but hashtags. So what's going on here? Well, the theory is that it might have something to do with the history between EA and Embark Studios. See, the guy running Embark is Patrick Soderlund. He used to be a big executive at EA, and even ran DICE, the studio behind Battlefield. He left EA back in 2018 and started Embark, which is now part of Nexon. So maybe there's still some behind-the-scenes drama there. Who knows? Anyway, ARC Raiders had a beta back in April, and people loved it. The gameplay was tight, the world looked amazing, and there was a huge rush to grab beta keys. The full game is supposed to drop on October 30th, and it's looking like a strong co-op shooter with a lot of hype building around it. So if this censorship thing is real, and yeah, it might just be a bug or mistake, it's still pretty wild to think EA might be blocking the name of a game made by one of their former execs. Some people are calling it petty, others think it's just a glitch. Either way, it sparked a lot of conversation. That said, some folks are reporting that the censorship might already be gone. One update said they tested the chat again, and it didn't block ARC Raiders anymore. So maybe EA fixed it. Maybe they backed off after people noticed, or maybe it was never intentional to begin with. Still, the timing is weird, and it definitely got people talking. Alright, so Sony's finally kind of admitting what everyone already knew. This whole push into live service games, yeah, it's not going great. In a recent Q&A session, Sony's CFO, Lin Tao, came out and said it's not entirely going smoothly. No kidding, right? She mentioned games like Marathon and Concord, which, let's be real, haven't exactly won anyone over. Marathon's been getting a lot of mixed reactions, and Concord pretty much crashed and burned right out of the gate. Tao tried to put a positive spin on it, though. She said that 5 years ago, PlayStation Studios barely had any live service games, and now they've got Helldivers 2, MLB The Show, Gran Turismo 7, and Destiny 2 in the mix. So yeah, technically they've made progress, but it's the kind of progress where you're not sure if it's actually good. Now, quick note, Destiny 2 came out back in 2017. That's 7 years ago, which kind of makes it a weird example of Sony's recent success. But hey, let's give them that one. Tao also said that live service games made up about 40% of their sales in Q1, but for the full year, it's probably closer to 20 or 30%. So, not a total failure, but definitely not the big win they were hoping for. To her credit, she did admit there are still a lot of issues. She said Sony needs to learn from their mistakes and start making live service content that's smoother and less wasteful, which sounds nice on paper, but also kind of obvious, right? Like, yeah, just make better games. Who would have thought? It honestly feels like they're slowly waking up to the idea that maybe they should stop trying to force this live service model and get back to doing what they're actually great at. You know, those big single-player bangers that everyone loves. Maybe this whole experiment was just one big detour. Let's hope they get back on track. All right, despite all the chaos with live service games and some recent flops, Sony's still sitting pretty. In fact, the PS5 just became the most profitable console in history. Yeah, not just popular, actually the most profitable. Let's break it down. Overall, Sony pulled in about $17.8 billion in sales income, which is up 2% compared to last year. But the real kicker, their operating income, which is basically the profit after costs, jumped up 36% to $2.3 billion. That's even after dealing with all the new US tariffs. Zooming in on the gaming side, the Games and Network Services division, or GNS, saw an 8% increase in sales, hitting around $6.4 billion. Profit for that section more than doubled, up 127% year over year. That's huge. So where's that money coming from? Well, PS5 hardware sales are up about 4.7%. Game software sales jumped 11%. And services like PlayStation Plus up by 8.3%. Basically, most things are trending upward. Physical game sales brought in around $157 million, up 10%. But digital games, those are killing it. They made $1.38 billion, which is up more than 40% from last year. Add-on content is slightly up too, though other smaller software stuff dropped a bit. Now, let's talk PS5. Console sales went up from 2.4 million to 2.5 million units this quarter. Not a huge jump, but still solid. Third-party games, meaning not made by Sony, saw a massive 22.9% boost. And first-party games, like God of War and Horizon, also did well with a 15% increase. Speaking of that, God of War is still Sony's top seller, with 23 million units sold across PS and PC. Horizon Zero Dawn is right behind it with 20 million. They also shared that PlayStation's total active users climbed from 116 million to 123 million. That's a 6% increase. So yeah, more people are logging in and playing. Now, the only slightly weird part is how Sony's now reporting their profit numbers in two ways, before and after the impact of US tariffs. Basically, those new tariffs could mess with their bottom line going forward, especially since the US makes up 34% of their total sales. But for now, the PlayStation 5 is crushing it financially. So here's the deal on GTA 6 pricing. Take-Two's CEO Strauss Zelnick was asked about it during their latest earnings call, and his answer was basically this: pricing will be revealed by Rockstar when they're ready. No confirmation yet. Now, of course, he knows what everyone's thinking. There's been a lot of noise online about whether GTA 6 might cost $80 or even $100, just because of how massive the game is and how long it's been in development. But Zelnick didn't lock in a price. He just mentioned the usual strategy that game publishers use. Start with a premium price, maybe throw in a few special editions, and then slowly drop the price over time. That could end up being the model for GTA 6 too. Meanwhile, Take-Two took the chance to brag a bit. GTA 5 has now sold over 215 million copies, which is just insane. And if you look at the whole Grand Theft Auto franchise, it's sitting at almost 455 million units sold across all the games. And yeah, Rockstar hasn't said a word yet about what GTA 6 will actually cost. But what they have dropped is hype. 2 trailers trailers. The first one hit 93 million views in a single day. The second one, it destroyed that number with 475 million views in just 24 hours. Alright, so here's the deal. Microsoft isn't trying to go head-to-head with Sony's PlayStation 6 in the usual console war way. Instead, they're going a whole different route with the next-gen Xbox. What they're doing is turning the next Xbox into a line of pre-built gaming PCs. Not just one console, but multiple systems that run Xbox, like small form factor PCs built using AMD's powerful new Magnus APU. That chip has a Zen 6 CPU and RDNA 5 GPU tech inside, plus GDDR7 memory. Translation: this thing's a beast. And because it's PC-based, Microsoft can sell these Xbox systems at all kinds of price points. Maybe you get an entry-level one for $199, or go high-end with a $699 model that can rival expensive gaming PCs. Even beat out the PS6. And if you want even more power, you can scale it way up like a real gaming rig. The idea is that instead of fighting over who sells more traditional consoles, Microsoft is building an entire ecosystem. Nah, who am I kidding? Xbox gave up, exactly like I predicted a year ago. And now they're out here making fake Xboxes. Let's be real, they'll still make money as a third-party publisher. And Game Pass? Of course, that's their main focus now. But does this mean consoles are done? Nah. So let's look at Sony's situation again. We'll quickly recap the financials, the profits, and then move on to what the PS6 is shaping up to be, especially compared to the wink-wink new Xbox. While some people are out here predicting the death of consoles, Sony just kicked down the door, slammed their financial report on the table, and basically said, yeah, we're doing just fine, champ. In fact, just fine doesn't even cover it. Sony's latest numbers are so good, you'd think Jim Ryan personally found a treasure chest in his backyard. From April to June, just 3 months, the PlayStation division pulled in 148 billion yen in operating income. That's about $1.04 billion in profit. Now, if you're thinking, wow, that's a lot, it is. That's a 127% increase over the same time last year. And here's the kicker, it's even more profit than they made during the height of the pandemic, when literally everyone on Earth was buying a PS5 just to escape reality. And this wasn't some fluke. Every single stat you can measure, upper. Hardware sales, up 4.1%. Software sales, up 23%. Monthly active users, up 6%, going from 116 million to 123 million. That means 7 million more people are logging in and playing than this time last year, which is basically like every single person in Switzerland deciding, yeah, I'm a PlayStation guy now. The PS5 install base, over 80 million. At this rate, it'll hit 100 million before you can say God of War 3 Remastered Remake. And here's the fun part, Sony's making way more per customer now. Digital purchases hit 83% of all game sales in Q1 2025. You know what that means? Sony's not just selling you the game, they're selling you the game without a disc, a case, or the ability to resell it. They get their cut and keep it, and you can't even lend it to your cousin Kyle. It's genius. Evil genius, but genius. Alright, let's talk PS6. Sony's next-gen console isn't just aiming for the usual better graphics pitch. Nah, they're going all in. We're talking full 4K, 120 FPS gameplay as standard, not just in menus or tech demos, and up to 10x the ray tracing performance of the base PS5. Yeah, that's insane. Most of this is coming from Moore's Law is dead, and say what you want about his track record, but he's doubling down. According to his latest podcast, the PS6 is shaping up to run laps around the PS5 when it comes to ray tracing, thanks to AMD's new Zen 6 CPU and RDNA 5 GPU tech. And here's where it gets wild. He claims raster performance will be 2 to 3 times faster than the PS5 2, putting it in the same ballpark as the RTX 5080 or even higher. And yeah, apparently Sony's cooking up some custom GPU magic on this one, using AMD's new T2 die, which could hit 3 GHz plus speeds and 40 to 48 compute units. But here's a question. If Sony does deliver on this, do we even need a mid-gen Pro this time? Or are we just straight up jumping to ultra-high-end PC-level console gaming? Now, the biggest issue people have with these leaks is always the PC gamer math mentality. The 5080 costs $10 billion. How can Sony put that in the PS5 and only charge $500 to $600? I've broken this down a million times before, but this time, I just want to make it as simple as possible. I'll give you 2 points to take into account. 1. The GPU market is a scam today. I'm sorry, but it is. Go build a $700 tower PC with new parts today. I promise you, it won't run games as well as the base PS5, especially Sony exclusive ports. 2. It's not a PC, and Sony just barely started breaking even with every PS5 sold. Yep, you heard that right. Sony has always sold PlayStation consoles at a loss because they recoup that money by selling games and services. The PS6 will be a complete beast, and it will sell at a loss, and gamers will be happy. Xbox consoles are going to be a mess next gen. Microsoft hasn't learned anything from the Xbox One flop, especially with their biggest mistake, the Xbox Series S. The Xbox ROG Ally is basically confirmed to be costing up to $899. That's way more expensive than a PS5 Pro, and it'll probably barely match the raw power of an Xbox Series S. The next consoles? They want to make 4 Xbox consoles based on Windows? Tell me that's not a recipe for disaster. In my opinion, PC gamers should pray that the PS6 reaches or even surpasses 5080 level performance. Why? Because it's the only way future GPUs will become more affordable and price-friendly. Look, all my research points to something insane, and people who've been on this channel for over a year can back me up on this. The PS6 will disrupt the entire gaming landscape. There are always going to be a few thousand people fighting on Twitter or in the comments, screaming, PCMR, PCMR, but the quiet 5 million gamers, they don't care. They'll buy the $500 to $600 console that just dominates everything. Look how well Forza is selling on PS5. Why do you think it's doing so well? There are about 10 million Xbox gamers here. Gears of War, Halo, they'll sell the same for exactly this reason. I'll remind you of this argument in 6 months and again in 2 years. You can bookmark this and rewatch it when you start seeing the signs, like I do.